3 months ago, I flew the Filipino flag carrier Philippine Airlines on one of their busiest routes from Manila to San Francisco. Most of the comments were people discussing how much they wish there were other choices of airlines in competition between the mainland US and the Philippines. Today that changes as United has officially launched the first ever service from the US mainland to the Philippines by a US carrier from San Francisco to Manila, and I was there to experience it all and share it with y'all. Welcome to SFO, where the party began immediately inside the door, where there was a stand for people going to Manila. We were welcomed at our special check-in desks, complete with gate passes for VIPs not traveling on the flight, and I was even offered an escort to the party inside security, but I wanted to head to the lounge first, so I politely declined that offer. This may only be my second United inaugural, Dubai being the other one, but the fanfare for this flight was already outdoing the Dubai flight, so I was excited to see what United had in store as I went through G-Gate security and out into the international terminal. Immediately through security, we first got a stop at the Polaris Lounge, which is through security and to the right. The celebration continued here as not only was United launching the flight to Manila, but also adding another daily flight to Taipei. I've covered this lounge in a few videos, but just to recap, downstairs is a smaller area but has plenty of workspaces, in addition to the sleep rooms and the shower suites. Up the escalator to the second and much larger floor, we see a ton more seating and dining areas. Down one side of the hall is the Polaris bar, and then the buffet if we continue a bit further, and then all the way at the end is the dining room, free for Polaris passengers. Before walking down the other side, I was greeted with this sign inviting Manila and Taipei passengers to join the party in the studio, the name for the quieter corner of the upper floor typically stocked with normal snacks. Once we got there, the energy was pumping and the drinks were flowing. They had a full wine bar with reds, whites, and sparkling wines from Napa Valley, and then some special food, different from the rest of the lounge, inspired by the Philippines and Taiwan, including pao sai, coconut mango panna cotta, guabao buns, vegetable pancit, chicken barbecue skewers, and of course milk tea with tapioca pearls. I got a seat by the window where I was able to get a view of our 777-300 at gate G2, and I got a few items from the buffet. It was some of the best food I've ever had in a US lounge, maybe just because I love the Asian-inspired foods. The gate was scheduled to open at 10:15, over 2 hours before departure, as told to me at check-in. I thought that seemed a bit excessive, but as I left the lounge and approached the gate, I could hear the energy and party beginning from down below. And we would see that starting the celebration early was entirely worth it. None of the celebrations had begun yet, but people were gathering in anticipation. The only other United inaugural I've done is the Dubai one, and the energy of this one has it beat by far. The celebrations hadn't even fully begun yet. Downstairs, as we approached the gate, there were plenty of people gathering to take pictures in front of all the different things set up. There were an assortment of stands with little snacks, information pamphlets, or just for decorations to take picture with. They also had a buffet with the similar foods that we saw in the studio part of the lounge for all passengers on this flight. Then began some music and dance routine from some of United's own Filipino employees, which was fun and drew a crowd, people looking on from pretty much wherever they could find a good view. After the dance routine, it did take about 20 minutes after that to get set up for the speeches, so I walked over to the outdoor terrace where I was able to hear Gate G2 throughout pretty much the entire concourse. I was also curious to see what was going on at this Taipei flight they were talking about, given all the signage for it, but it seemed to be completely normal, so I guess we chose the right celebration. I got back to the gate just before the speakers, and when I say the energy was high, before the speakers ever began, I got a sound level warning from my Apple Watch just from people talking and singing and vibing and all of that. We were then treated to speeches from execs of United's SFO Ops and San Mateo County, as well as Neil Ferrer, the Consul General to the Philippines in San Francisco, where we learned amongst other things that SFO's United Trans-Pacific market is larger than American and Delta's Trans-Pacific portfolio combined. We then had the ribbon cutting, welcomed the crew on board through the arches, and mingled a little bit more while we waited a little bit longer for boarding. The hour-and-a-half celebration flew by, and before long we were boarding for Manila. Inaugurals have so many VIPs and global services that even though I can pre-board with my 1K status, the Polaris cabin was almost mostly full. But regardless, the mood lighting was in full effect, people were still buzzing with excitement, and I probably talked with 10 other customers before finally setting into my seat, 1A. The best part was the mountain of amenities and inaugural giveaways. I've only ever flown inaugurals in economy, so the extra giveaways on this flight was a great treat, and after settling in, we'll take a look through the familiar Polaris seat. The headrest is adjustable by sliding up and down, tilting forwards and backwards, and curving the edges for support. Perhaps the best part of the Polaris seat, however, is just how comfortable the seat itself is. The seats also have 1 or 2 windows, row 1 having 3, as one is tucked behind the headrest. Below that is the seat controls. We have a roller wheel to recline the seat, or you can adjust the leg rest and lumbar individually. In front of you is the TV screen, and below that, a little storage area with USB charging port. I used this largely for charging things while I slept. The tray table below that is a push release to slide out. Honestly, one of my favorite tray tables out there. The footrest is below that, and in row 1 I have even more space for my feet as there's no seat in front of me to cram it underneath. I had to book quickly in order to snag seat 1A on such a prestigious flight. The storage underneath is also slightly bigger, but still doesn't quite fit a backpack. Good enough for my shoes and whatever bedding I wasn't using. Along the aisle is the countertop, as the odd-numbered rows have more privacy with the counter being on the aisle side. We also have the enclosed storage cubby stocked with water bottle and a headset. Below that, on the counter, is the remote, which can be released, although the TV is also a touchscreen. Then is a universal and USB charging port, as well as the headset plug. You'll also find a reading light that can be swiveled and dimmed. Below that is the literature pocket, which had things like United's Hemispheres magazine, and could be lowered in order to make a slightly wider surface at bedtime. Then looking through the amenities, it was actually my first flight with United's new bedding. I loved the fun blanket design, but it feels weirdly vintage for some reason, like the 80s or 90s. It is a good replacement for the older Saks Fifth throw blanket, however. Then was the bedding put together in a new bag in an effort to reduce single-use plastics. The comforter is different than the previous Saks Fifth comforter, but it is just as comfortable and plush. Honestly, with the design, I might like this one more. Then is the Saks Fifth Ave pillow. I love these pillows as they actually are the size and firmness of normal bed pillows and not a little small thing like some airlines use. And then the best part, the famous Polaris gel pillow. They've decided to use a different pillowcase, but still the same amazing gel pillow. We were also given a pre-departure beverage, of which I got this weirdly clear, sparkling wine. We also had slippers waiting for each of us at each seat. We also got the Therabody amenity kits. These were just introduced a couple months ago, and while I do actually prefer the contents that are found inside, the Therabody cross-body bags are a significant downgrade from the hard-shell away amenity kits that I still use for all kinds of purposes in my opinion. Then for the special inaugural gifts, first was a Love Philippines tote bag. Then a postcard honoring the first flight. We also got the same mini poster that they gave out on the Dubai inaugural, so I guess that's kinda just their thing. Our menu card was also specifically decorated for the inaugural, including a welcome from Patrick Quayle, Senior Vice President of Route Planning. The other side included our menu for the flight, including the 2 meal services and mid-flight snacks. We also got a Polaris bear. These used to be found on certain Polaris flights when Polaris first rolled out, then disappeared and there was a weird black market for them on eBay. Now they're given out on most prestigious flights. It also came with a flag pin, exciting because they ran out of these pins supposedly before boarding. They then came through to pass out pajamas for us all. It included these extra comfortable pants with pockets. The real star, however, was the special long-sleeve PJ shirt honoring the inaugural. I saw the same ones for the Dubai inaugural, we just didn't get them back in economy class. As we pushed back and Rhapsody in Blue began playing throughout the cabin, we waved goodbye to the onlookers on the ramp and in the terminal filming the first ever departure of United to the Philippines. As we taxi out, a bit about why this launch is so exciting and important. Before COVID, there were 3.4 million passengers between North America and Manila, SFO being the second most after just LAX, with under 500,000 passengers. Philippine Airlines uses their 777 instead of their A350 to places like LAX and SFO because having the high density is more important than having the newest cabin since it's sold out every single day. Speaking of which, United followed suit, launching this flight with their highest capacity aircraft, the 777-300, right off the bat, a fairly unique thing to see, as even the Dubai launch was only the 200 variant of the 777 to start. In addition, there's a bit less premium demand as compared to other US to Asia markets despite the high density demand. This does draw the price down significantly as SFO now has 10 East Asia destinations, and this one can be found at less than half the price of those routes, like SFO to Tokyo or Hong Kong. This ticket, for example, was booked in business class for $1,300, a steal for a 14-hour Polaris flight. In flight, we got to see the lavatory, and I do find it interesting that the roughly 5 business class lavatories all have slightly different sizes and organization. This is one of the forward lavatories, for example. We also had the amenities supplied, including the lotion, the face spray, and a spot remover. Then the entertainment options, which I won't cover in full just because I've covered it plenty of times before, but United does have one of my favorite in-flight entertainment systems, as they seem to just have endless options and they do refresh it often enough. Since it's a US-based airline, I personally recognize most of the programs as well, which helps. You can see, however, under movies with all the genres. Under comedy, for example, the selections just keep going. Also, a ton of TV show selections as well for each genre, and then for each show there's a collection of episodes, although not in order and instead just a random selection from throughout the show. They do have information about the destination as well, including the weather. Then the map, which is one of my more favorite styles of maps as it's fully adjustable, being able to zoom in and out and move the map as you need, in addition to looking up the information on your flight. I do like the ability to search for items, making them much easier to find if you remember what you're looking for. You also can add things to your favorites as you scroll through and make your own playlist for things to watch later. United does offer Wi-Fi on their flights, and while it seems like they may be working towards free Wi-Fi, you can still get the full flight for only $8, much better than Delta, which charges $40 for domestic flights. It may not be the fastest Wi-Fi, but it's middle of the pack for airplane Wi-Fi, and I'm grateful to have it for such a deal. We were also given hot towels shortly after departure, as they tried to get the meal service started as quickly as possible with such a late departure. With the placemats down, we were given a drink and a bowl of nuts. I pre-ordered my meal to assure I'd have my first choice, so after a little bit, they brought my main course, the beef kare-kare or Filipino curry. They also came by with our choice of appetizer, for which I got the caprese salad. United actually announced they'll be improving their meal service, testing out mid-flight tapas on their Singapore flights, as well as getting rid of one-tray service unless you request the express service. Not on this flight, but I guess soon. Then the dessert cart appeared. They had a fruit tart, cheese plate, or signature ice cream sundae. I chose the sundae with a little bit of everything. Then it was time to set up for bed. By holding the scrolling wheel towards the bedside, the bed gets itself fully flat in about 20 to 30 seconds. Once flat, the odd-numbered seats have a ton of privacy, as the counter helps to add an extra little bit of protection from the aisle. I do find it interesting that even though it has the wider footwell, it's the same seat, so there's a small gap between part of the footwell and part of the seat. Then to set up the bedding. United actually does have mattress pads on request, so I asked one of the flight attendants as they passed by, and they grabbed one for me. It's a much better mattress pad than some, obviously being beaten only by the likes of Emirates or Qatar in my opinion, and much better than roughly 50% of the airlines that don't have a mattress pad of any kind. With that down, I added the decorative throw blanket, which was an excellent accent to the bed, and yes, I realized that I put it on upside down. Then the comforter, which was super comfortable and plenty large enough to use on the full bed. The pillows are wonderful, as not only do we get to add the wonderful Saks Fifth Ave pillow that takes up basically the whole headrest, but also the gel pillow. Combined, you have more than enough to stay comfortable, as United's bedding is one of the best in the world and truly offers a top-tier sleep. And then the best thing about row 1 is the amount of space on the footrest. You can see here that no matter how you sleep, there's still plenty of room for you to get comfortable. To help get some sleep, you can turn off the accent lighting within the suite, and also turn off the Do Not Disturb mode using the buttons on the side. That makes it so that outside the suite on the number you can illuminate the Do Not Disturb light or not to let the crew know whether or not to leave you alone. In addition, you can set a message on your TV when you turn it off, not only with the Do Not Disturb mode, but asking them to wake you for meals if you want. I'm gonna get some sleep for now though, and I'll check in with y'all soon. Now that we are awake and a little hungry, I decided to explore the mid-flight snack options available in both galleys. They had some leftover dessert items, but then also cheese plates, assorted fruits, and a tomato soup with grilled cheese, supposedly. These snacks were available in the front or the aft galley. I decided to grab a cheese plate and ordered a green tea, which was brought to my seat to enjoy while I got some work done. One of the perks of having the nice countertop in addition to the tray table. Before long, the lights began coming back up, and shortly after they came by with warm towels, telling us that our pre-arrival breakfast was almost ready. This meal wasn't able to be pre-ordered, but they came through the cabin to take orders. Another reason to sit towards the front of the cabin, as many airlines tend to run out of options by the time they reach the back. I chose to go with the cottage cheese crepes instead of the omelet, with a vanilla and berry sauce on top of it. It was excellent, but a bit too decadent for me for a breakfast, so I mostly just ate the fruit and the yogurt. So a couple months ago, my American Airlines account got hacked into. They stole all my miles, but I also started getting texts from a weird number that just included a bunch of personal information about myself. In addition to changing what I share with the public, I also decided it was time to encrypt my internet. So I gave in to all those YouTube advertisements and got my own NordVPN subscription, and I'm glad that I did, because in addition to securing all of my information, they've agreed to sponsor this video here, giving each of you guys an additional 4 free months in addition to any 2-year plan that you purchase using my link down below, nordvpn.com/Patrick. You can get access to this deal. In addition to securing your passwords, NordVPN can help against a number of different cyber attacks. Things like fake links or fake ads that could lead bad parties to your IP address, then using your device's information against you or for negative reasons. So maybe you travel a bunch and you just want to protect your data around the world, or maybe you're sitting at home and you just want to access a different library of entertainment options on your normal streaming services. Not to mention the guide that they have to explain how to get cheaper flights like the ones I take or other YouTubers take that you might want to take yourself. But whatever it is that you're looking for, with their gracious sponsoring of this video, it means that if you purchase your 2 years, you can get an additional 4 free months added on top of that using my link down below, NordVPN/Patrick. Keep yourself safe. In the meantime, let's head off to Manila on this inaugural. Peace. By the time the meal was done and collected, we had our first sign of sunlight, and soon after began our descent into Manila. Now, this isn't the first ever United flight to Manila, as United actually has flown to Manila for quite a while, but from their Guam base with 737s, both direct and through Palau. If I'm not mistaken, they also used to fly from San Francisco to Manila, but through Hong Kong or Guam or something like that, but I'm sure one of you can confirm that better than I can. There is a market that I do think United can tap into nicely, however. Ever since posting my Philippine Airlines video, I saw some conflicting comments from people frequenting the routes from North America to Manila, most of which saying that they took it because it was the only option. With United's new service, I'm curious how many people will switch to this service going to Manila instead. The only thing that isn't entirely clear is how easy it will be for people to connect throughout the Philippines to other places besides Manila, as that is one perk of flying to the Philippines by Philippine Airlines instead. With other US airlines connecting to Manila through history, however, I am excited to just see how well this route performs over time. And for those of you wanting an even more deep dive into United's Polaris class, SFO's Polaris Lounge, and all other associated features, take a look at my video in my series titled The Ones, covering United's Singapore flight, where I spent time on all of that. Inaugurals are a ton of fun, and United really knows how to make it a party, especially when arriving almost an hour and a half early to Manila. I will say that on this one, however, credit may go out at least partially to the Philippine people. They were all having so much fun, they had so much excitement, and it was contagious and great to be a part of. Of the few inaugurals I've been on, this one may be my favorite. But it's not just me, as I heard plenty of people throughout the celebrations talking about how this was their best inaugural. Better than Athens, better than Dubai, it was just planned wonderfully and supported so well by the passengers traveling. Perhaps the strangest thing is how few people from United headquarters showed up. Dubai had all kinds of bigwigs. This one only brought local staff. possibly since the Dubai one also marked the new partnership with Emirates, but it almost seemed like United values their inaugurals differently based on who shows up for it. As for United's Polaris, I don't feel shy saying that it's become one of my favorite business classes in the world. Their seat is top 5 for me, maybe even top 3. Their bedding's first place. The cruise I've had recently have been wonderful, especially on the inaugural when they were all so excited. The only problem was the food. And while we didn't have their new planned service on this flight, the proposed changes could really elevate the experience. I do see this Manila service being profitable for them, and hopefully we see it bringing more routes to Southeast Asia, as there's a few major cities currently lacking service from the US, like Bangkok and KL, for example. With the amount of people in North America, but especially California from the Philippines, I'm excited to see this route launch, giving some competition in the market for the first time, which is always good for us consumers. But also, I love seeing my home airport get a bit of love whenever new airlines or routes are started. The celebration was not entirely over. As we got off the airplane, we were given a nice necklace and some fresh dried mangoes. From there, as we made our way out, there was a couple different places of people playing some wonderful Filipino music, welcoming us and United Airlines' nonstop route to Manila. And as I flew out just hours later on my AirAsia flight to Malaysia, I was able to see the celebration they had set up for the returning flight. A little bit less fanfare than we had in San Francisco, but you can see the check-in area with balloons and the gate area with all kinds of signage, balloons, and whatnot for all the speakers and stuff that they were going to have for the inaugural return of the same flight. And as I watch my inbound plane push back, taxi out, and take off to head back to San Francisco, I wait for my next flight. But until next Sunday, safe travels, and I'll see y'all next time.